Hello and welcome back to the Thought Shift. And today's episode is one we have approached with curiosity, but also
Mm,
a little bit of hesitation.
yeah.
Today we are talking about health and mindset.
Mm, mm,
Controversial.
yeah. Yeah. I think I definitely, coming from a health background, I definitely was a bit hesitant with this one. But we're giving it our best.
Wait. And we're not bringing this to you today to say it's all in your head.
No.
Positivity cures everything. Is a lovely affirmation to cure disease. Like, that is not what we believe. And it's
Mm,
also not what the research says.
mm,
We'll come to that later on. What we really wanted to explore in our conversation today is something grounded, compassionate, and to really explore the mind and body connection and
mm.
how your beliefs, emotion, and stress can shape your health trajectory. But alongside there are other I can't speak. There are other real factors like genetics, medical care, and life circumstances that all have to be taken into account.
Yeah, definitely. We wanted to go a bit deeper than internet opinions and, as Debbie's said, like motivational quotes. So we have based this episode on a scientific review that looks at how a positive and negative mindset can really influence recovery and potentially disease progression. And it speaks about the practical mechanisms
Oh,
like
that's
the
just not
I
speaking.
can't talk. I'll say that again. It speaks about the practical mechanisms like the stress response, cortisol, inflammation, and that immune function, and also the human side of the healthcare, like the empathy, the emotional support, and feeling safe enough to engage in your care.
This episode is to do with is because of genetic predispositions. There are real
Mhm.
biological factors which we cannot control, and your mindset is not a replacement for medicine. And it's not a moral responsibility to be cheerful or positive when
Mhm.
you're faced with unpleasant news or information
Mm.
about your own health. But what we wanted to use our conversation today to talk about and to question is, when we stay in negativity, how does it serve us?
Yeah.
What does it protect us from? And is it giving us the outcome that we actually want? Because if your mindset is constantly sending danger signals, your body will respond like it is in danger. And
Mm.
even when what you really need is support and steadiness and a sense of safety within your own system.
Yeah, so we are not here today to sell you miracle stories. It's a conversation. We're here to separate the inspiration from the evidence and to really explore what the research does support. That shifting how you relate to your body, your symptoms, and your stress can really create meaningful changes in your behavior, in your recovery, and your quality of life. So today, what you'll leave with is essentially it's a micro shift, a new way of seeing what is possible for you when it comes to health. And it's not through that eye of pretending that everything is fine, but through updating the beliefs that keep your body locked in that fight or flight stressed response.
Around a peer review paper, because health and mindset can feel controversial, we wanted to bring you the science, and we wanted to look at an overview from a paper which was published in the Yale Journal of Biology and Medicine. And it's a review, which means They didn't just run one experiment. Instead, they pulled together findings from a really wide range of existing studies to explore one question. And that was, how do our thoughts, our emotions, and the support we receive affect our health trajectory alongside the medical treatment that we are receiving? And what the review highlights is a consistent pattern across different areas of healthcare. So when people have a more positive and hopeful mindset, they tend to be more engaged in their treatment and more likely to stick with medical advice, medication rehab, and lifestyle changes. So what you're seeing there is engagement in treatment is a really indicator of a positive outcome. So having a positive mindset supports engagement in treatment, which is something in those situations you really need to do to get the maximum benefit. And that's a real world driver of outcomes. On the flip side of that, when people felt stuck in helplessness, pessimism, or chronic anxiety, the review describes how that can feed a cycle. Stress levels rise, healthy behaviours drop off, recovery can take longer, and worsening systems can deepen the despair and fuel that cycle of helplessness, pessimism. It's not working. I can't do it. So it really is a strong indicator of adherence and outcomes, your mindset.
Yeah, definitely. And the author of this particular study also explores the how behind it. And the major pathway with this is stress. You might have heard that referred to as that fight or flight mode. Stuck in that chronic stress response, and that's where the body is in a heightened state continually, it's the continuance of that state that is what does not support the body. It's the stress hormones like cortisol, they are elevated, and this then affects inflammation in the body, which then affects our immune response and our overall resilience. It's like a ripple effect. And this review discussed the link between the emotional states and the immune response. And it points to research which suggests that positive emotional style is associated with a greater resistance to illness. So while pessimism is linked to poorer health outcomes in the larger studies. So the stress response affects every area of the body and is responsible for a lot of symptoms, and I'll explain a few of those further on. But this review really highlights something really critical, and that is that our psychological state isn't just a byproduct of our health, it is a variable in our recovery.
I feel we need to pause there and just let that marinate.
Let that land.
Yeah.
Let that land.
It isn't a byproduct. It is a variable in your recovery.
Yeah.
And that's why
it is so important. And it's that whole stress response in the body and that inflammation and that impact on the immune system. And when the immune system isn't working properly, it slows down your recovery. And it's so important. So important. The research shows that a negative mindset, specifically one characterized by learned helplessness or chronic pessimism, actually triggers the HPA axis. And the HPA axis is what's known as the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. And this is key because it sends a flood of cortisol and adrenaline through the system. And when that danger signal is chronic, it leads to systemic inflammation and a dampened immune response.
So this is
So
the fight or flight that you mentioned earlier on, that
yeah,
that flood of those hormones is
yeah,
the state that you
it's
referred to, and
damaging.
you're in that state for a prolonged amount of time, it has a chronic impact on the
That's the
body.
key. Yeah, it's the length of time. So when we're in that fight or flight, let's call it that for now, for, like you said, a prolonged amount of time, that's when it starts to do the damage, because stress as a response is needed, because it's that danger signal. It's the whole running from the tiger. If you want to go back and use that analogy, it's,
Right.
do you stay in fight, or do you run? And so the body redirects the blood supply where it's needed. So if you're going to run, it gives you the energy to run. So therefore it's directing it from everything else. But if you were to do that constantly, that's what causes the inflammation in the body and the effect on the immune system, which then affects how it can help your body repair. So that's why it's so important to be in that calm state, really, and support your body through what it's going through. It's looking for the signals, really.
So patients with a positive mindset, which the paper defined as hope and agency, actually had better trajectories in everything from cardiovascular recovery to surgical healing. There's a really wide range of health treatments which are impacted by a positive mindset and the trajectories. And it's not just because it's magic, because their bodies are fighting the internal danger signals whilst also trying to heal an external injury. Negativity often starts as a protective strategy. We expect the worst so that we won't be disappointed. But the research shows that this strategy has literal biological cost. And it's like trying to repair a house while the fire alarm is still screaming and going off and burning.
That's a really good analogy.
You wouldn't try it, a burning house, you're not going to try and start repairing it, Body is unwell, you're not going to try and start repairing it while it's in that fight or flight state. So why are we telling you all of this? Why do we want you to know? And it's not to tell you to be positive and everything's going to be okay. We're not trying to deny genetics or medical realities. What we wanted to share and the angle that we wanted to present is that negativity has a cost. And for many of us, it's a default setting and one that has protected us.
So if we can name the beliefs that we're running about our body and our symptoms and what's possible for us, we can then shift the relationship. And when the relationship shifts, the behaviour shifts. And this is where a really sort of different health reality can begin. And it's one small step at a time. And I found that this was really key when I was working in nutrition. I was working with gut health problems, and stress was the most common factor across, I would say, 90% of my clients. When we talked about, we didn't just talk about diet, we talk about lifestyle as well. What's going on for you? What's going on at home? What's going on at work? How are you feeling? And so many of them were carrying so much stress. They were so rushed, so stressed. And like we've said, that fight or flight mode is so damaging, especially from a gut health perspective, because, I was dealing with clients who had gut issues like IBS, constipation, bloating, just to name a few. And this was potentially because their digestion was being impacted by how they felt. So
Mhm.
when you eat, when you are stressed, if you're rushing, let's say you're eating at your desk or you're eating on the go, you're not giving your body the chance to be in that calm environment to digest your food. So, if you're on the go, you're eating on the go, your blood's being pumped around your body to keep you moving. It's not being used to digest your food.
Mhm.
And you're not chewing properly, you're not eating properly. And all of these have an impact on your gut and how your food is digested. And the stress, they were ending up with all of these really horrible gut problems. And a quick tip here, what can really support digestion when you're feeling stress is breathing. Is take a moment, is don't eat at your desk for a start, don't eat on the go, and just sit down somewhere and just take a few deep breaths in and send that signal of safety to your body so that it can relax and go, okay, yep, right, we're going to eat now. That's okay. We've got this under control. Digestion can happen normally and naturally. It's not forced. It's not trying, your body's not trying to do something else at the same time, which is what you alluded to early. It's that, when we're calm and we're not stressed, our body is calm, and therefore we can then deal with whatever else is going on, like
Yep.
with a potential illness. It gives us that stability to be able to deal with that. And
That's so
there is
interesting.
also, yeah,
I'm
honestly, there are so many.
thinking of all the times I eat at my desk in a rush, doing
Mm,
doing doing too many other things. I'm so guilty
yeah,
of that.
yeah, I think a lot of us are, and it's
Yeah.
not until someone, comes along and says, well, are you eating at your desk? Or are you
Why are
stressed
you
when you're eating?
enjoying your food?
Yeah, yeah. So then this is the key with this. It's not like we're saying here, it's not just about the um medicinal support. It is about the mindset, because the mindset affects the body.
Mhm.
And when the body is sending signals that it needs some help, it needs that calm environment to be able to do
Yeah,
it.
that
And
makes complete sense.
yeah, what's really interesting is also when it comes to genes, so what we may have inherited when we're born, I used to find that some people would say to me, oh, well, that runs in my family, therefore that means that I'm going to get it. So there's no point me even trying. So the mindset was already there. Well,
Yeah.
they've got it.
They just
Mm,
already labelled themselves
yes,
because somebody else
completely.
and a family member.
Yeah. And whilst genes do play a part, there's a saying that your genes load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. And I absolutely
Yeah.
love that. Because yes, you might be predisposed to diabetes, for example, but that doesn't mean you're going to get it. But if you live in a certain way and you're not looking after yourself, and you're then, yeah, the genes are going to be triggered, and you may potentially suffer from that. But thinking about that environment that you create for your body, giving it the chance to not trigger those genes is absolutely within our control. It's completely within our control. And lifestyle is everything. And this was one of the things that, clients used to be surprised about, when I asked them about lifestyle, because it wasn't just about the diet. I think they thought they'd
Nah.
come and see me and I was going to give them a magic diet. And I'm like, well, actually, I can give you the best diet in the world to follow, I think, for them.
Mhm.
But if you're stressed, you're on the go, you're not looking after yourself, you've got poor sleep, the best diet in the world is never going to happen until you incorporate, lifestyle changes as well.
It's a completely
So
holistic approach, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, completely. And It doesn't mean that doesn't need to mean that you have to be 100% all the time doing everything right. You know, I always work with that kind of 80-20 rule, and I wouldn't expect anyone to do anything I didn't do myself. You know, I eat cake, I eat chocolate, but I am mindful about how, you know, how and when. It doesn't mean I
Mm-hmm.
don't enjoy it. So it is all about having that, um, yeah,
Balance.
openness as well, the balance. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Keeping on the genetic thread, there is a genetic risk mindset study that we wanted to loop into this
Mm.
conversation as well by one of our favorite doctors to mention, Dr. Aaliyah Crum, who looked at how just knowing your genetic risk for disease changes your physiology, even if the information is false.
Mm. This is a good one. I like this one. Mm.
Likes this. Participants were, were given tests for a specific gene that affects exercise capacity. Some were told they had the high endurance version, and others were told they had the low endurance version.
Mm.
Here's the twist: the results were randomly assigned. So some people with good genes were told they had the bad ones. What they found was that those who were told they had the bad gene actually saw a physiological decline in their lung capacity and exercise efficiency during a treadmill test. So their bodies began to mirror the belief about their genes, not the genes
Mm.
themselves.
That's insane.
Isn't it? So
Mm.
what we learn from this is your mindset about your genetic fate can actually override your physical potential, which is completely wild. And that, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
study
Oh,
really, really highlights the message that we're trying to convey in this episode about
mm.
how the mind and the body are connected,
Yes,
and how
yes.
being given that misinformation, even though they
Mm.
had genes, they were told they didn't.
Mm.
Therefore,
Mm.
their lung capacity and their exercise efficiency began to mirror the belief about their genes.
Mm.
Like
Yeah,
they were what their mind told them.
absolutely. Their mind had decided
Mm-hmm.
that, yeah, that's completely insane. And yeah, I love that. There was also another study.
Love this one. I love this one.
Yeah, I see. We both found this, didn't we? I found this
Yeah.
absolutely fascinating.
Mhm.
And it's a study by Dr. Ellen Langer, which was conducted in 1979. She's as a Harvard psychologist. She showed that when elderly men lived in an environment designed to trigger the mindset of their younger selves, their physical biomarkers, so like grip strength, posture, and even eyesight improved. It's it's like the body, sorry, it's like the mind gave the body permission to be well. And I just think that's insane. So my understanding is that these men were sort of in their 70s and they
Mhm.
were taken back to the environment all around them. So all of their, even things down to like wallpaper, books, televisions were all from that era when they were in
Yeah,
their
that's right.
50s.
They went into a lot of detail, didn't they, to recreate that
Yes.
exact environment from a previous time so that they could
Yeah.
really embody that entire
Mm.
period of their lives.
Yeah. And even things like carrying their suitcases up the stairs, and you know they were doing all of that. And the reason I find this particularly fascinating is because thinking about how that could revolutionize the care of our elderly. Now, that is a whole topic on its own.
Can you
But
imagine?
can you imagine if, you know, like homes for
The care
where
home.
care homes were in were kept in a specific era, if you like. I mean, obviously you'd have to change as the
Yes,
years went
the
on.
era
But
of the inhabitant.
yeah, just roughly, that would
What
make a
impact
difference.
does that
This is
have?
what yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It would just remind the mind that, this
We
is
should look
possible
into
for them. Honestly, I truly think that is a huge topic. A huge
it.
topic. It's not for today, but as I
Should we
was,
take
that was,
yeah.
yeah, that was my first thought when I looked at that. That could be life changing for elderly in care homes. So yeah.
Watch this space, people.
Yeah.
So I think it's safe to say that we think that this topic is a complete wow. It's wow to say your cells are listening. It's a wow to have that realization that your internal dialogue is the lead architect of your physiology.
Yeah,
And in our last
definitely.
episode, we talked about the financial thermostat. And your health is no different. Your health has a baseline too. And as women, we can quite often operate from a baseline of functional exhaustion. We've lived fight or flight for so long that we don't even recognize feeling safe anymore. We're just always on the go, never stopping, always doing the next thing. And when your identity is tied to being the one who does it all, you subconsciously treat your body like a machine. And when the machine breaks down, maybe it's a migraine, maybe it's an immune flare, chronic fatigue, that one of your first instincts, and I can relate to this personally, is feeling anger, feeling annoyed with your body, feeling betrayed that, you've got so much to do, you need to do whatever it is you need to do, and your body can let you down.
Can't afford to be ill. Yeah.
Can't afford to be ill, can't afford to be ill.
To be ill. I've got
All the
time to be
time,
ill.
do this, etc., etc. We've all used that one.
Yeah.
But
And
here's the shift. You doing the shift?
go,
Nicola for the shift. Yeah.
No. So, but here's the shift. So, don't think about your body as the enemy. It's what it is. It's not something to be conquered. It's a really sophisticated feedback loop. So, if you were to interpret a symptom as betrayal, you trigger a whole new fresh wave of stress hormones, and that's not what we want. But here's the shift. Your body isn't an enemy you have to conquer. It's a highly sophisticated feedback loop. When you interpret a symptom as a betrayal, you trigger a fresh wave of stress hormones, you tighten up, and you move back into full-on war mode. The wow is that when we shift our perspective to see a symptom as a communication rather than a failure, we change the chemistry of our body. We move from sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, into parasympathetic, which is the rest and repair. And that's where we want to be. You aren't thinking yourself thin. You're not thinking yourself well. You are creating that physiological safety, which is required for your immune system to actually do its job. Thinking about what we've covered, we'd just like to say that your genes matter, your environment matters, and your medical care absolutely matters. But your mindset is the foundation in which all of those other things have to grow. So rather than viewing negativity or realism as a personality trait, it's a survival strategy. But the version of you that is ready to lead, that version of you that is ready for the next level of impact, cannot survive on a strategy of self-defense. Mindset in itself is a form of medicine. It's again, to reiterate, it's not about pretending that everything is perfect. It's about choosing the interpretation of your reality. That gives you the most agency.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also important to mention, it's also not about doing. If
Mm.
you are at the moment living with a disease or something that is impacting your health, we're not saying with mindset that you have to be doing things in order to be positive.
Mm.
If that's not where you're at, but it's about who you are being when you are doing what you're doing. And it
Mm.
might be that today you really can't get out of bed because of your situation.
Mm.
And you
Mm.
don't have to have a positive mindset. Doesn't mean you have to get out of bed if that's not where you're at. But who are you
Mm.
being when you're in bed?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. And I think, there are some scripts that sometimes we think about ourselves. For example, you might think, oh, I'm at the mercy of my symptoms and it's my bad luck. But if you thought about that and said, actually, do you know what? I'm a partner in my own healing, and my
Mm-hmm.
state is absolutely vital part of my treatment plan. And
Yeah,
then as
that's a
Debbie's
great
just,
word.
yeah, and then as Debbie's just said, if I'm not, sometimes we can think, well, if I'm not pushing through the pain, I'm being weak. But actually, rest isn't a reward. It's not a reward. Rest is a requirement. And it's a requirement that your body needs. So you're leading yourself with compassion, not force, which I
Yeah.
think is really important. You're leaning into what's available for you now.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to leave you with a question about how would you move, breathe, and talk to yourself today if you truly believed your body was your most valuable ally? Because when you shift that internal setting towards partnership, your entire health trajectory can change.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've loved this conversation today. I've really enjoyed this.
Mm,
It
it's
was
a
it
big
was one
one.
we were a bit reluctant to have, and we did
Mm,
debate whether or not to cover this
mm,
topic. But
mm.
I'm glad that we did, and
Yeah.
we hope that if you're listening and you've been struggling with your health for a short time or a long time, it isn't about carrying the weight of the guilt. It's about recognizing the depth of your own power, and just
Mm,
also bringing awareness to that just mindset is part of the toolkit.
yeah, definitely. Definitely. Um, and we would love to know and to hear from you what's landed in this session.
Mhm.
Have you seen yourself in this? What do you believe is possible for you? We love to hear from you. You can email us. Our email is always at the bottom in the notes, or you can contact us through direct message on Instagram. And we'd love to know, and we'd love to support you with those belief systems. Come and find us. We'll always have conversations. We love to help you reframe thoughts so that you can be that best version of yourself.